Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 1 just finished, and I thought it was, well, you'll just have to wait until later for that. But it is a tradition that for when a new Ninjago season comes out, you have to add it to a Ninjago season tier list. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing here today. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing we need to rank is the pilots, and in my opinion, it is a very good start to the series, and it did a great job at introducing us to all of the characters and the lore of the show. But it is certainly not the best, but it is still good in my opinion. So for now, I think it definitely deserves a solid C tier. Next up is Rise of the Snakes, and I'm going to tell you right out the bat, but I don't have any nostalgia for it, so that won't come into effect in my choice. It did a great job of building upon the pilots and expanding the Ninjago universe, and this season isn't bad by any means, but there are just so many better Ninjago seasons in my opinion, so that is why I'm putting it in C tier as well, but just ahead of the pilots. So, Ninjago Season 2 is really good, but just the second half of it, because the first half is just filled up with filler episodes, and don't get me wrong, most of them were really good, and I remember loving the racing one as a kid, and I still do, but I definitely prefer shows that have a story and not just one-off episodes that aren't connected like The Simpsons. Even though I do really like The Simpsons, it's great. Anyways, back on topic, I do like the second part of the season, and it really starts to pick up when they are on the island, and of course, the final battle was really good and a great original ending to the show. But of course, the first half really lets the season down, so because of that, it is also going to go into C tier, but between Season 1 and the pilots. I've never understood why Ninjago Rebooted is so hated by the Ninjago community. The only thing that I see people hating about it is the Jay, Nia and Cole love triangle. Anyway, I really like this season, and it's definitely different to the other seasons of the show, and I really like the idea of the Technoblades and how Zane is the main character this season, because in the first couple of seasons we didn't really get to Zane too much after he discovered that he was an android, so it was good to see him become the main character of this season. And I also really like how he defeats the Overlord. It is truly a great scene in my opinion. So with that, it is going to be the first season to not be put in C tier. It is going to be put into B tier. But a season that is really loved is Season 4, the Tournament of Elements, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not the biggest fan of this season. I love the tournament part of the season because I just think it is so cool, and it definitely makes sense for a show that is about ninjas with elemental powers, and also some of the rounds were just a blast to watch. My personal favourite one was the rollerblading round. I didn't mind the first episode, in fact I thought it was okay, but I really didn't like the last 2 or 3 episodes. I remember not even wanting to watch them as a kid when I rewatched the show, and to this day I still don't really like them, but isn't as bad as it used to be when I was a kid. But because majority of the season was really good, I think it definitely deserves to top this list for now, just beating out Rebooted into B tier. So, I've actually made a whole entire video about why I like Ninjago Possession, but I don't know if I love it enough to put it into S tier, because S tier is only for the best of the best. So, because of that, I think I'll have to settle with putting it into A tier for now. Skybound is another season that I really like being a J fan, but it is also a season that you either love or you hate, and for what I've seen, majority of people that don't like Skybound is because of this finale. Yes, it isn't the best because the whole entire season just basically becomes irrelevant, but since Jay and they remember what happened in the entire season, their relationship grows and becomes a lot stronger. But yeah, it does feel like a bit of a cop-out, but the whole season is incredibly strong, apart from like the last minute or 2, and I know in my top 5 seasons video, I didn't include this season and opted to put Possession ahead of it, but I've decided to put Skybound ahead of it now, so it is now currently the highest on this list. Okay, so next one up is the Day of the Departed special, but I won't be ranking it because I've only seen this special 2 or 3 times and I honestly have no memory of what happened whatsoever, but I remember liking it, but then again I was 8 when this came out, now I am 15. so that opinion could easily have changed. So sadly, I won't be ranking it in this video, as there's no way to watch it right now in English. So, up until recently, I really didn't like Hands of Time at all, but then I rewatched it, and now I don't mind it. Yeah, the animation isn't the best, and the story could have been a bit better, but the premise and the idea of the Time Blades is really interesting, and I really like the Time Twins. So, I don't think this season is better than Season 1 or 2, but I think that because of it just being longer, I'm gonna have to put it up just above of the pilots. So, the next one up is Sons of Garmadon, and I think it should be no surprise that it's gonna go straight up to S tier. This season had a big job because it followed the movie, which wasn't really received too well, and if that wasn't bad enough, the ninjas' designs got changed to the movie designs, and at this point in time, no one liked them. But Sons of Garmadon did that job, and then some. Oh my god, how good is this season? The plot, their characters, and all of the twists and turns were just so good. But you know what's gooder? Hunted. Yeah, I know that is a very unpopular opinion, but I like this season. I really enjoyed the story in the first realm with the original 4 Ninja and Master Wu, and then Lloyd, Nia, Pixel, Dereth, and the Elemental Masters back in Ninjago fighting the Sons of Garmadon. Anyway, it's such a cool and unique season, and I can't get over how much I enjoyed the first realm pass of the season, and if you couldn't tell, it is straight to the top of this tier list. March of the Oni is good, but disappointing, but only because the first 2 parts of the Oni trilogy were the best 2 seasons of the entire show, at least in my opinion. March of the Oni is still really good, but it has nothing on the rest of the Oni trilogy, and it being only 1 hour long in total doesn't really help either. And also, the Oni were very disappointing because they practically did nothing this entire season, and they also weren't very menacing, but overall, it was a decent season for what it was, so I think it's going to be at the bottom of B tier for now. So, that is all of the Masters of Spinjitzu seasons ranked. So it is now time for the Wild Brain seasons, and first off is Season 11. So yeah, this isn't the best season, and is also a very unique season because it is split into 2 parts, the Fire and the Ice chapter, and unlike most people, I actually like the Fire chapter more than the Ice chapter, but I still don't think it is good by any means. So overall, it isn't a great season, but is also a little tiny whiny bit underrated. So instead of putting it into D tier, I will be putting it in the bottom of C tier. Prime Empire is such an underrated season, and I honestly don't know how so many people don't really like it. I mean, it is literally Ninjago and video games. What is there not to like? Well, I guess that it did kind of feel like Skybound 2.0, because the focus character was Jay, and one by one each ninja dies until it is just Nia and Jay left, and just like Skybound, instead of the villain getting defeated by Jay fighting it, it is defeated by his mouth. In Skybound, it was his wish, and in Prime Empire, it was just Jay talking to Unagami. So, I think it's about time for us to see Jay finally defeat a villain. Anyway, the gaming seems really cool, especially the racing game and also the platforming game, so it definitely isn't a top tier season, but it definitely isn't mid. So I think that it belongs right after March of the Oni in B tier. I might get a little bit of hate for this, but I don't rate Master of the Mountain as highly as most people do. Don't get me wrong, it is still a great season, but don't expect it to be an S tier like most people could place it in. But let me tell you why. Well, first off, there was an anime-styled episode which automatically takes this season back a notch. But I did like this season's story, and how the ninjas get captured for a couple of episodes, and once they escape, they get split up, and that makes for a bunch of great episodes, and it also allows Cole to get his first and only focus season, which is a massive plus. But it still doesn't make up for the anime episode, and I mean those episodes are more filler than the season 2 filler episodes. But anyway, I think that is definitely in between A and B tier, so because of that, I'm gonna have to put it at the very bottom of A tier, which is a very respectable position. So, I recently made a video about how I felt that the island was undergraded because a lot of fans seem to overlook it, but it's extremely short for only being 40 minutes long, which makes it extremely hard to rank against all of the other 2 to 2.5 hour seasons. But I did find it better than the other 40-minute installment, being the pilot. And I also like it a lot higher than the Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu, and I also grade it slightly higher than Hands of Time, but it isn't better than the first 2 seasons. Seabound is a season that is extremely different and also extremely good. I really like how they go underwater to try and get Nia's powers back, and I also really like how it continues the story of the amulets from the island. And how can I not talk about Kalmar? He is an extremely good and interesting villain, and also when Nia merged to sea and defeated Jr. was also really cool. And that ending was also really sad, and seeing Ninjago submerged into sea is also pretty cool. The only problem is that this season is called Seabound. It should be called A-Bound because that is right where it's gonna go right after Skybound. Oh boy, Crystallized might just be the most hated season of Ninjago. Now, just over a month ago, I made a whole entire video about Crystallized defending it because of this. And I didn't mention this in my video, but I am a strong believer that Crystallized is only as hated as it is because it is the finale of the show. And I think that if the season was just a regular season, it would probably be put in most people's B or C tier instead of D or F. But if you have seen my Crystallized video, you would know how much I like it, and it won't come as a surprise that it's going straight to the top of A tier. Now, what we have all been waiting for, Dragons Rising Season 1. So firstly, I just wanted to say that I think that it was a great introduction to this new series, to merge in all of the new characters that we now have, and I'll talk about part 1 first, and I really think that part 1 is just really good, and I really loved every single minute of it. But with part 2, when the first 5 episodes first came out early, because of course they did, I just didn't really like them that much. I just felt like that it skipped over quite a bit, and I just really didn't like Wildfire. But on my second watch, I kind of actually liked his episodes, and I also did like the last 5 episodes, and the finale did feel a little bit rushed, but I still liked it. Also, at the very end, I like how it just gave us so much information of what we can see next from the series. But where should we rank it? I kind of want to put it in the first spot, but because of the potential recency bias that I probably have with it, I will have to put an S tier, but behind Hunted and Sons of Garmadon. So, that is the list done. If you want to know more about my top 5 favourite seasons, you can give this video a watch here. See you later, be Ninja.